All right. Knowles, you're there. There you are.
There we are.
I can't hear him in my. I stopped the hammering. I got nothing in my head.
Stop the hammering. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. I'm glad you're here. I went a little long. You only have 30 seconds to tell me the history of gun control.
Perfect. It's easy enough. It's about disarming blacks. Is that a good segment?
We done? Thank you. Thanks, Knowles. We'll see it. No, it is about disarming blacks.
It is about disarming blacks. There's no other way to put it. It's very funny now because people are saying, Oprah Winfrey is saying, that gun control is the new civil rights movement. I suggest she revisit the old civil rights movement, which was about reversing gun control and not disarming blacks. The earliest gun control law in the U.S. came in Virginia in 1640. It was explicitly to disarm not only enslaved blacks, but free blacks as well. Throughout the run-up to the Civil War, especially after Nat Turner's rebellion, a slew of states passed laws to disarm freed blacks. They reversed state Supreme Courts reversed decisions that upheld the Second Amendment as an individual right and upheld gun rights that were in state constitutions. They just reversed them without any explanation. The Ku Klux Klan rose up only in places where they had successfully disarmed blacks. That's where they were able to maintain a stranglehold, and they fell apart in those places only when courts protected black people's rights to keep guns. This was accepted by civil rights advocates all the way back to Plessy v. Ferguson, all the way back to the Dred Scott decision, which did not recognize blacks of slave ancestry as citizens, was decided in no small part because if they were citizens, they get to have guns, and if they get to have guns, that's a very bad thing.
Is that true?
That is true. You can read it in the decision.
Yeah.
And I'll go into a little bit, instead of 30 seconds here, I'll have about 35 minutes on my show where I'll go a little bit more in depth on the decisions themselves. But this goes back all the way to 1640. It goes right up through Jim Crow. Jim Crow was the foundation of modern gun control. It was the primary plan of the KKK, which was the military wing of the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party hasn't changed its tune. It's been trying to disarm blacks for many centuries now. It's the oldest running political party in the world, and it's still doing it. Now,
but you know, I mean, in this case, blacks stand in for anybody whose civil rights have been taken away and who want to defend their civil rights. They stand in for us. They stand in for every single person who is in that situation. This is
an important point because actually in the North, gun control eventually spread to target some Italians in New York, which, by the way, fair enough. I will say you can have that one, fair enough. But it targeted Jews in New York. It was targeting Mexicans.
Jews have got to have guns.
Other states.
Jews don't have guns is not a good situation.
For thousands of years, history would look a lot different. Exactly. So that's certainly true. They stand in for those people because you'll hear people say, who needs an AR-15 to hunt a deer? And I say, nobody. Nobody needs it. Nobody's ever, actually, you really can't use an AR-15 to hunt a deer. It isn't strong enough. But the purpose of the Second Amendment is to protect anybody, not just blacks, not just whites, against tyranny. There is one story, it's an amazing story, I don't know if people know about this, that explains this perfectly well. Because a lot of times people will say, well, who needs an individual right to guns to protect against tyranny? The federal government would clobber you, it would clobber the citizens. The federal government has spent 14 years trying to occupy Afghanistan.
That's right. And Vietnam before that.
And
of course you saw the movie Red Dawn, more importantly. I mean, a small band of vigilantes can do a lot of damage. Yeah.
That's right. Plus something tells me if the gun owners and pro-civil liberties people in this country rebel, I bet a lot of people in the armed forces will probably come join our side. So that's neither here nor there. But there is a time and there is a place at which citizens have taken up their Second Amendment rights to protect all of their other rights, and they did it successfully. This is called the Battle of Athens.
The Battle of Athens.
Battle of Athens. It occurred in East Tennessee in 1946. It's an amazing story. So it's this county, McMinn County. It was a very diverse county. It was politically very divided. When the Civil War broke out, Tennessee voted against secession, then it voted for secession, then the Union troops invaded, and they got more regiments out of McMinn County than the Confederates did. There's clearly a lot of political tension there. But Republicans tended to win elections in this area. Until 1936, when a Democrat political machine moves in, the Crump political machine, and they
You
start
couldn't make that up. The Crump
the
machine.
Crump.
Okay.
It gets even better.
Yeah.
They install their guys there. There's this guy, the Sheriff Cantrell, and he was the sheriff for a few terms. Then he moved up to state senator and put his deputy, Pat Mansfield, in charge as sheriff. Because this is how these machines work. They just hop around positions. I see it in New York all the time. And they trade. Yeah. So anyway, during this time, this was 1936 to 1946, during this decade, all of the men were away at sea. They were overseas fighting the Nazis. So all of the strong-armed men in this town were gone, and all of a sudden political corruption moves in. Now, these men heard about this while they were fighting the Germans, while they were fighting the Japanese, and they said, can't wait to get back home, time to fix things up in my town. So when they get back, there was corruption everywhere. This Democrat machine reduced the voting precincts by half. They reduced the justices of the peace. There was rampant election fraud. Everybody knew it. Manipulating the poll tax. They started pulling over buses and just randomly ticketing people for drunkenness. You know, they raised
just to collect money.
Just to collect money. In just that decade, they raised $300,000 doing that. It's a lot of money in the 1930s.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
So anyway, so the GIs get back. 3,000 of them get back, 10% of the population of this county. They decide they're going to run and clean up this town. The patrolmen aren't going down easy. The sheriff normally would deploy 15 patrolmen on election day. He deployed 200. All the GI poll watchers were arrested. They were charged with federal offenses. There was a patrolman, a Windy Wise. He turned a black voter away. This guy, Tom Gillespie, who was going to vote for the good GI Republicans. He turned him away at the polls. He then punched him with brass knuckles. As this black voter was running away, he pulls out a pistol, shoots him in his back. Just to make clear what's going on.
Yeah.
This is when all hell breaks loose. The GIs, led by a guy named Bill White, said, you know, looks like we're not going to be able to win this election because they're not playing fair. Time to go get our guns. They all go home. They get their personal guns. They raid the local armory. They end up taking.
I love America.
This is so American. They take 60 Enfield rifles and 2 Thompson submachine guns. They come chasing these damn dirty Democrats trying to steal the election. All the Democrats hole up into jail. And by the way, by this point, the GIs already have a couple deputies hostage. They're holding them hostage. So they say, get out and give us the ballot box. The Democrats in the jail, they say, we're not going to give you the ballot box. They say, last warning, give us that ballot box. We're going to prove you didn't get any votes. The Democrats in the jail say, we're not going to do it. They unleash a hellstorm of fire on this jail. They burn this thing to the ground. Thompson submachine guns going. They throw Molotov cocktails. That was before they dynamited the place. This thing goes up in smoke. So guess what happened? The deputies turned over the ballot boxes. The deputies were going to claim a 15-1 victory over the GIs. They counted the ballots. Didn't work out that way. So these Democrats.
Well, Democrats never change.
They never change. They sit on that ballot box, baby. This is echoes of 1960 all over again. All the dead people in Illinois must have voted in McMinn County. So
that's an amazing story.
And the GIs knew this. They said, if we lose here, we're all going to go to jail for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
But if we win, these Democrats are going to be charged with crimes. These Democrats are going to be run out of town. And they did win. And they cleaned up the town. They cleaned all of the corruption out of the town. I think they chased the Democrats out of the state. They certainly out of the area. And this is an example. This wasn't that long ago. This is 1946 of Americans being able to protect their rights. The Second Amendment exists in case the government stops allowing the First Amendment and all of the other ones. They fought back. They stood and fought, so to speak. And it also does away with all of this nonsense of, well, we can have these guns, but not the strong ones. Only the cops get to have the strong guns.
Right.
The Second Amendment exists as a last stave against tyranny. And we've seen this for 400 years now. You would think that people would learn their lessons, but for 400 years, these racist elements, particularly led by Democrats, have been trying to quash everybody's rights. And no matter what 17-year-old children tell me on CNN, I think I'm going to stick with the civil rights.
Yeah, and you know, this thing about political machines, which historically the Democrats have done better than Democrats, you know, the Detroit, Baltimore, all these Chicago, all these places where
New York.
they're controlled, New York, where they are controlled by Democrat machines. If you think it can't happen at the federal level, take a look at the fact that Barack Obama had the IRS silence his political enemies, that he had the Justice Department spy on his political enemies, that he had the State Department lie to the press to advance his Iran deal. I mean, it can be done. It can be done. And there is a point there. You know, this is a revolutionary country. And either we say, well, it's no longer a revolutionary country. Now we just bow to the king. Or we say, no, you know, it's still a revolutionary country. That's why I have a gun. And we will come after. Just be warned, we will come after you if you don't do this.
And by the way, this is not a good faith debate. Twice as many people are killed each year by hands and feet as by rifles of any kind, including the AR-15.
Well, they want to ban those next.
They want to ban the hands and feet coming next. This isn't a good faith debate. They are just trying to disarm you. They've been trying to do it for 400 years. This is no different. We shouldn't give them 1 ounce of respect. They're pimping out 17-year-old kids to do it.
I know.
We shouldn't give them 1 ounce of respect. It is not a debate. Keep your guns, and you'll make sure that it only remains a debate.
All right, the Michael Knowles Show is coming up. Great job. That's a really good story about the Battle of Athens. Is that what it's called?
The Battle of Athens, yeah.
What year was it?
This is 1946.
That's great.
You'd think it was like 1746. This is 1946.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that Americans still have the spirit to flex their muscles and their rights.
Unbelievable. All right, the Michael Knowles Show is coming up. He'll talk about this more. Thanks a lot, Knowles. That's good.